Hello and welcome to the Sew Ab Fab Podcast. I'm Ali and I run Bobbin's Sewing School. However, I'm also one half of the Sew Ab Fab Podcast broadcasters. We introduce you to guests that are integral to home sewing. Our guests all have small to medium-sized sewing-related businesses or provide necessary resources to help you as sewers. So today's guest is the other half of the podcast. She's a very important person. She's the creator of the Sew Ab Fab business. And I'd like to welcome you to Caroline. So hello, Caroline.
Hi, Ali. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. All's well here in Hampshire. How about with you in Rutlandshire?
Well, Rutland is raining as per normal. But
Sorry,
everything is okay.
Sunny
It
here.
rains all the time here.
Oh,
Ever since I've moved, it's rained. I mean, admittedly, we did have a nice dry summer, but since summer finished and everything, we do get the odd dry day. I shouldn't really complain, but every time I look out the window when I'm chatting to you, it's raining. So, but anyway, but I'm good, and it's doing the allotment good, so that's okay. I'm quite happy.
That's okay. So, Caroline, perhaps you can firstly tell us a little bit about Sew Ab Fab.
So Ab Fab lovingly puts together complete dressmaking kits for women, men, tweens and infants. Each kit contains absolutely everything you need to make that particular garment, taking the worry out of putting the right piece of fabric with the right pattern, or getting halfway through your garment and realizing you've forgotten the zip. So everything comes in that box. So paper pattern, fabric, sewing notions, a little treat, a top tip sheet, and it's all delivered straight to your front door, really. But also, excitingly, in the future, we are releasing our classes. So we will have the sewing school side to it, which was always part of it. It's just with COVID, we've had to wait until we can do that side. So it's all very exciting.
Well done.
So yeah, so just growing each day, really.
Brilliant. So that's great, but it's been a winding journey for you getting to today and the two of us putting together this podcast. So what started you on this path, Caroline?
I've always loved to craft. I learnt to hand stitch, knit and sew when I was a little girl. Both my nans sewed, and I still have my first ever garment, which was a night dress for my much loved teddy bear. My dog at the time had chewed the teddy bear's innards out and taken the squeak out, and we had this awful scar where I had sewn up its tummy, so I was devastated. So I asked my nanny if we could make, well, his name was Snowy, my bear, make him a night dress to keep him warm and to stop the dog ripping again the innards out. So and in fact he still has the night dress. She cut up a flannel night shirt, a light blue flannel night shirt, and that's where my love of hand stitching came in. Wonderful. So I crafted. I didn't do it at school. I did sewing for I think it's 3 months, and then went on to cookery when I was older. So I did hand stitching as infants and juniors and loved it. And then obviously in senior school you have to make a choice. So I went to a convent and it was sewing or cookery, and I took up cookery. So it was there, but it was put on a back burner. And when I became ill with my progressive illness, it became apparent I couldn't continue in the career that I'd chosen. So I thought about what I loved. I'd been given this opportunity to do something that I absolutely loved, and I thought long and hard about it, and that's when I decided that I was going to follow my passion. Good. And did a lot of training and got to where I am now, really.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's funny how life throws you curveballs and sends you in different directions.
On one hand, you kind of feel the world has ended because you've been given a diagnosis. But on the other hand, it has given me this amazing opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yes.
So just for our listeners, Caroline, do you mind sharing what your progressive illness is?
No, not at all. So I have a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disease, which comes in many forms and formats. We're all a little bit different. Mine really affects my organs and my joints, my skin. So in plain terms, my joints dislocate, my skin rips. But what it's given me is complete intestinal failure. So I cannot eat. So I'm fed via a central line or Hickman line, which effectively is a line into your bloodstream at the back of your heart, and I am fed overnight with a bag of fluids. But that's just, to me now, it's I've had this system for 4 years. It's keeping me alive and it's allowing me to do what I do. So you just get on with it. I do dream of cake, as Ali knows, permanently. And I can be naughty and have the odd hot chocolate. But yes, so everybody deals with illnesses differently. And what it's done to me is given me this huge need to prove that I can still do what everybody else does, and I have this immense passion to live. You know, it can be life limiting, and so I'm going to live each day as if tomorrow's not a good day.
Well, it's a good way to live, is to live your life, isn't it?
Exactly.
And achieve what you want to achieve, and reach your dreams, really.
You've got to reach for the stars.
Yes, you have. Well done. So you have had a few small businesses along the way. Can you tell me about them?
I can.
A little about what you've learned from them.
So obviously when I first became ill in sort of 2001, and it took till 2008 to get a diagnosis. So I was very poorly. I couldn't get out. I was in a wheelchair for most of the time. And my 4 walls closed around me. And my way of coping was I picked up knitting needles again. And I started to knit, and I knitted, and that knitting turned into lots of scarves in different shapes and sizes and shawls. So I set up a little company called Rhapsody, and we went to the craft fairs and all the Christmas markets, and I sold hand knitted scarves that had been embellished with beautiful crystals, and they were just beautiful. They were lightweight and gorgeous, and that gave me an insight into the craft industry and fed my dream even more. So I decided that I needed to further my skills.
Okay.
So I put Rhapsody to bed, and then went and started off as work experience on Savile Row as a hand finisher.
Oh, that's exciting.
So we'll go back to that. Skipped on to the next business. So whilst doing that, I knew then exactly what I needed to do and what I wanted to do, and that was to open my own haberdashery, fabric shop and sewing school, which after many years of hard work and saving, I eventually got there, as Ali knows, because Ali was and still is my mentor, and the person that I would go to with absolutely everything. And so she was very much part of it, and it was my dream. And I loved my shop, absolutely loved my shop.
Yeah, you put your heart and soul into it.
I did. I really did. And fast forward a couple of years, and unfortunately my illness hit me with a ton of bricks, and that's when the intestinal failure happened. And whilst in intensive care, we had to make the decision that we had to sell it, which Ali helped my parents do because I was in hospital. So we sold it to a lovely couple who we are going to interview as one of our guests. who have taken it on and taken it into a new direction. And I have since moved out of Hampshire and now Rutland, and back on my feet, feeling much, much better. And so our Fab has been born and is going great guns, still doing what I love, which is teaching, putting together dressmaking kits, helping, and we are moving into premises, as I mentioned before, and it's the start of it all over again, and just pure excitement and joy, and can't wait to be back. That's
brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, the only downside is I'm 130 miles from Ali.
I know, never mind. But you know, we have computer technology.
And we run sewing retreats together, so we still work together. Ali and I formed this friendship for 9 years now.
Yes, it's a long time, isn't it?
And I, you know, without Ali, I wouldn't be where I was now. So I think, in answer to Ali's question, that was long-winded, was that each business has led on to the next. So I've taken something from each one, learned from it, and then I've got to Sew Ab Fab, which is hopefully my last business, but one that I can work around hospital.
Yeah, and keep going, you know, gently working at and enjoying and making it easy to be. Yeah.
So all my businesses, we've had to work around hospital. Obviously, when we Stitched by You, it wasn't such a big thing, hospital, but now with complete intestinal failure, hospital is a big thing. So if you are poorly out there and if things look dark, there is hope. You can work around these things. You it does feel like it's forever. You're having to put things on hold. You take 2 steps back instead of 2 steps forward, but you can do it. I know there'll be times when be back in hospital, but I know that you can run a business at the same time.
Yes. And that's one of the advantages of working for yourself in a way, because you can write your own agenda. And
exactly. And you know, and as now with social media and phones and technology, I can answer emails from a hospital bed. None of you guys will know that's where I am, but I can keep on top of things and everything else. So yes.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. So before you actually before you were ill, you were actually a veterinary nurse. So that was interesting.
I sewed up animals.
So it's a really sort of like skip across. Like me in my wellies going to thinking, oh gosh, in 5 minutes time I need to go and see that client, and rushing into the house, changing, making sure I didn't smell of cow poo.
I used to be one of the only veterinary nurses that would go onto the farms, and the farmers used to laugh. My very first practice that I worked for was run by a lovely gentleman who was quite old-fashioned and liked his nurses in dresses, you know, and I used to be in amongst all the cows, castrating all the young bulls and debudding their horns in my dress and wellies, covered in absolute poop, but loved every minute of it. So yes, I went from sewing up animals to making clothes.
I know. So we go from like the extremes. So we're either completely, you know, I'm never glamorous. I've never pertained to be glamorous, but you try to be clean and you know, manicured slightly, to, you know, being like knee deep in something unmentionable. Or arm in something unmentionable. It's just not good.
Nothing has changed. So let me just state, I still have my love of animals. I'm passionate about them. And as we mentioned in an introduction previously, I have 3 chickens and 2 dogs. And I spend my life covered in chicken poop. I've never known an animal poop so much. Ali didn't tell me that when she gave me the chickens. Oh, they're so easy to look after. No problem at all. And they produce poop.
No, Caroline, you are lucky we didn't give you ducks then, because if you think chickens are bad, ducks are something else.
They just bring me such joy. They are the funniest creatures that I have come across. Unfortunately, Hyacinth yesterday got a bang to the head with a cauliflower that I dropped on her.
Oh no!
She gave me a real squawk as if to say, what the hell? She shook herself off.
Oh, brilliant. So I know that you've got loads and loads of funny sort of like animal related anecdotes. But do you have any funny sewing related anecdotes? Because I have one about you, which is quite fun.
Oh, Annie, I hope this is not embarrassing.
I know. Do you want me to tell the story? Okay, so when you came to me, you were very fearful of needles, having sewn on Savile Row, and you're a very competent seamstress, and I know that you are amazing. You're capable of all sorts of wonderful creations and everything else. But you arrived at my first class when I first met you, and you said you were terrified. You were absolutely terrified.
I was shaking.
and you literally like were blanched. And I can't use a sewing machine because I'm terrified of needles.
I was petrified. And it was a huge problem. It was a huge problem medically, and it was stopping me from reaching my dream. Yeah,
I know. And I said, well, you came with your pattern and your fabric and you were going to make a dress. And I was like, but you've got to use a sewing machine, Caroline. You've got to learn to use this sewing machine and not be fearful of it. And I think you've cracked it, but it's still there a little bit, isn't it?
No, yes, it is.
That's in the Rotary Cutter. I mean,
don't get me started on the Rotary Cutter. So I have this fear of needles, which because of my illness has got better. But the Rotary Cutter. So I also have a huge fear of blades, because I cut myself badly as a child when horse riding. So Ali and Emma, who used to teach our quilting lessons, used to find it hysterical. So when we used to have a quilting class at Stitched by You, I couldn't be near the group that was learning because they were learning to use a Rotary Cutter for the first time. And all I could hear was Emma going, put the blade away, put the blade away. Every time someone put the blade on the table, rightly so. And I used to twitch for 6 hours and have the first aid kit ready. So in order to get over this fear, I was like, I'm going to have to learn how to use this Rotary Cutter myself.
So you've got the gloves.
I've got gloves. So, there's no cut gloves that chefs use and people working with heavy machinery. I have those.
Well done.
Yes, and I use a Rotary Cutter quite happily now, as long as my left hand is adorned in a very strong glove. See? So
it's fine. It's fine. But you still will twitch about people using Rotary Cutters, won't you?
I do. I'm not comfortable with them. I've seen what they've done to Ali's fingers and the stitches she's needed. So I don't know why she's giggling so much.
Yeah, well, that was just a silly evening. I was prepping for a class and I was rushing. Rushing. It was a Sunday evening. I was prepping for the class the next day. And I did what you should never do. I put too many layers of fabric together. And of course, the inevitable happened. I wasn't thinking. And of course, I just, sliced through my...
Yeah, so even professionals do it.
Yes, I know. It's it is naughty to skip.
It wasn't funny at the time, but I think both of us laughed about it now. I'm not sure the lady involved laughed about it, but the time that we were in a class, we were teaching, and she sewed through her finger. Do you remember that, Ali? And we heard it clunk. And we heard this, and bless her, accidents do happen.
They do happen.
The nerves take over, and the one thing that happens when nerves take over with me is I giggle, and I can't stop.
I know.
He's throwing looks at me, and I was literally giggling in the corner, handing the first aid kit over. Because
it wasn't a major incident, it wasn't a hospital incident, it was just a very she only caught the edge of her finger.
But I was so accidents do happen. We have had some funny classes, haven't we, Ali?
We have.
And you laugh with your students and everything else, and I think they must go home and laugh about us and our funny comments and everything else. And actually those classes form friendships. There was one class in particular when it was young girls, and it was 10 to 13-year-olds, and we were making
Oh,
pajama bottoms.
that was, it was classic.
It was a class. You couldn't have scripted it.
No, you
And
couldn't.
these young girls were dropped off, and evils were being thrown across the room. And we just started off in a nice breezy way. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And the first one piped up and she said, I don't want to be here. And Ali and I went, oh. And then the next one piped up and went, wasn't my choice either. And we had 4 young ladies. I think there was only one who had chosen to come and do our class. And one had been sent to us as punishment of all things. She'd been naughty.
She'd been naughty, so she had to come to a class.
To come and learn to sew. Now, how do you deal with that? Well, Ali and I looked at each other, and do you know what? Within half an hour, those girls had got their heads down.
Yeah, they had.
They were giggling away.
They were.
The evils had stopped. They'd had a piece of cake.
Yeah.
And a soft drink, and they bonded.
They did bond. They were
from different schools.
Yes.
And they at the end of it, they told us what a fab time. But Ali and I stressed for the whole 3 hours.
It was quite funny, wasn't it? It was quite funny. And it got quite competitive. They also got a little bit competitive, didn't they?
And how do you turn a class around when you've got people there that you just do not want to be there? But it was funny because Sewing Bee was on at the time.
Yes.
And they'd often been made to watch Sewing Bee. And the episode that they'd all watched was when it was lingerie week.
Yes.
Do you remember? And
yes,
Patrick had gone on about ladies' underwear. And that's what started it. They giggled. They giggled their heads off about lingerie week and Patrick Grant. And it's amazing. They went home with the sewing bug.
Yeah.
And I know one of them came back several times and bought different pieces and was well on her way to making herself a handmade wardrobe. It just goes to show, doesn't it?
It does. So, I think that was the funniest, though. I mean, I don't know why we were picked to give the punishment, though. I can't.
They obviously thought, let them have them for half an hour. Well, it wasn't half an hour.
3 hours.
Yeah, we get some time out. There'd be no squabbling with siblings. I think we were seen sometimes as babysitters, but that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite funny. It was one of the funniest. When I always remember that young girl. She was about 13, wasn't she? And she sat there with this. She said, "I'm here because I've been naughty." I was like, "What?"
There you are.
So, Caroline, I think it's a great journey. It's been a great journey for both of us, with both of our sewing schools, and the way we've had to develop our businesses over time
and adapt
to
needs and changes, and
definitely. And so you did tell me how you're taking Sew Ab Fab further, so that's exciting. But you haven't told me anything about what your sewing plans for yourself are. So have you got any sewing plans for yourself?
I do. I'm not very good at sitting sewing for myself. As you know, I love to make for others. And that's one of the things about Sew Ab Fab that I love, is I get to make the garments, and my models keep their garments. So I am loving kitting out. My models are my family, most of them, not all of them. But most of them are relations, so they're I'm loving kitting them out with bits and pieces. And I often sew and make gifts, but I am desperate for new jeans. So my on my to-do list is the Megan Nielsen's Dawn jeans.
I haven't done those. I haven't seen them.
So I need to do those. I would love to do a noodle head bag. Ali, my track record with bags is not great.
No.
And I don't know why. So I'd love to do that. And one thing I am doing, it's not for me, it's my niece She's moved back from Canada, and she's petite, and so she struggles to fit into clothing that is her age group.
Yes.
So she wants to dress for her age, and rightly so.
Yeah.
So I am at the moment putting together a capsule wardrobe for the summer for her.
Oh, lovely. She's a very lucky niece.
Well, hopefully she likes them. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I thought, I was could still be quite trendy when the need took me, but obviously not. So she sent me the photos that she liked and things like that. So I've been trawling through different patterns, and actually this morning I got up, and that was the first thing I did was I found 2 patterns that would tick 2 off her list. So yes, so that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Brilliant. So have you come across any handy hints or tips whilst sewing lately? Is there anything that you've come across that you have thought, oh, I need to keep that in my little repertoire of handy hints and tips?
It's not a handy hint or tip, it's a handy gadget. So my mum brought me a magnetic tray from a well-known shop. That has a middle aisle full of great little bits and pieces.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know.
And she came home with this amazing magnetic tray.
Whoa.
Now it's like a tray that you'd get in an operating theatre. It's a metal one with really strong magnets. It is 14 centimeters by 23 centimeters, so quite big.
So that's good size. Yes,
it's good size. And I don't know about you, but I'm forever putting pins down in places and hand sewing needles, and I have dogs. And
well, I found you're never going to guess. So I lost a needle yesterday.
Oh no.
I found it this morning. I thought, I put my shoe on. It was only a very fine needle. I put my shoe on. I thought, oh, what's that in my shoe? It must have gone into the side of my shoe and gone down and underneath. I walked on that yesterday. I walked on it and it did no harm, but it was there in my shoe this morning. So it just shows, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So that's my handy tip. So now when I am sewing, I just put everything in there.
Yes.
It's scissors, tape measure, everything. It's all held in
one place.
And you don't have to worry about putting the pins into the pot and the pot tipping over.
No.
So that is my handy.
Gosh, that is good. Yeah.
Tray. Yeah.
Well, I think I need. Yeah, because actually everything that's metal will stay put. So your sewing feet and things. I wonder whether it would magnetize things.
I don't know. It is magnet. So maybe.
Yeah. But how exciting. That's a really good little gadget. Well,
gadget,
a good little utensil.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you can get the ones that hold your pins, but they're tiny.
Yes, they are, aren't they?
This is big enough to hold everything. And then the other little thing is, remember those little fabric caddies you made, and then I subsequently made. I use one of those to put all my threads in.
Brilliant.
When I'm sewing, because I've busted a hoover already.
I know. It's hard work. Yeah.
So yes, and unfortunately at home, my sewing room at home is carpeted, and in fact the new studio is carpet, and as many home sewers know, that is a complete and utter nightmare.
It is.
But
I used to find that the best thing on carpet was one of those little handhelds, like push,
I got carpet sweeper.
Yeah, carpet sweepers. Yeah, brilliant. Picking up threads. Yeah. So that's exciting. I mean, it's going to be a new challenge for you moving into the new studio, but I'm sure it'll be a wonderful experience, and I can't wait till the lockdown is over and you're starting to get together, and maybe I'll come up and visit you and have a sewing time together. So if you were to have a day off, which I'm always telling you, Caroline, don't overdo it because you're very naughty. I'm always aware that you of all people need more of a day off than I do. So if you had a day off and you could spend it doing exactly what you wanted, what would you do?
I have 2 things.
Yes.
Non-COVID, when we could travel, I would take the dogs to the beach.
Yeah, lovely.
The dogs love the beach. I love being at the seaside.
Yeah.
But the dogs they're just different. I think it's a sense of space.
Yes.
They don't feel threatened. And I love nothing more than watching them run around free, like loonies. We have to watch Poppy, the golden retriever, because she will help herself to people's picnics. But, apart from
That's
that,
retriever like.
yeah, and she's a real water baby. She can't swim. She's hysterical. She's never learned to swim, but she has the ability to submerge like a hippo.
Oh,
So she goes down in one motion.
Okay.
And she sticks her nose up like a submarine spout, and all you see is this nose above water.
Oh my God,
and then she comes back up again in one motion and moves a couple of steps on and sinks down again. So yes, COVID times, my day off would be a day at the allotment getting jobs done.
Lovely. It's very therapeutic, isn't it?
I love it. I mean, I go down, as Ali knows, that's where my chickens are. So I go down every day, and actually I only need to walk onto the allotment and I feel my stress drop.
I think sewing is a de-stressor.
If you're not working in the industry.
I think gardening is a de-stressor, and I think yoga, they're all very, very patient things. It's like at the moment, in my garden, I grew last year some echinaceas, so they didn't flower last year, so it's coming round now that they will be flowering this year. So I can't wait for the time when they come out and I can see what the flowers are, what the colors are. So that's
I planted seeds, and this morning I went outside quickly and lifted the cover, and I was like, oh, has anything sprouted? But no, not yet. It's too early. It's been less than a week.
I know, but it's
that anticipation.
It is anticipation, and so it's patience and anticipation
and having your hands in the soil and
it's lovely, isn't it? It is lovely.
So no, I do enjoy it. I think we haven't touched on it too much, but actually running a sewing business is wonderful, but it is stressful. It's like running any business. It's constant.
It is.
You're never off duty.
No.
And do you know what?
But you are providing a wonderful service for other people that have busy lives themselves.
Which you love.
Which is important, and I think that actually sometimes when clients come to classes and they just say, oh, I'm really enjoying this, I feel so relaxed, and you feel, yes, goal, I've achieved
done it.
Something, I've done it for somebody
and
else.
Pass that passion on.
You do.
And they can go home and do it again and actually take time out for themselves.
Yes.
I mean,
really important.
It's important to remember also that sometimes it only takes 20 minutes. If you can just sew one seam.
Oh, totally.
That's all you need to do. You don't need to do a complete garment in a day. Just take your time out. Take 20 minutes. Otherwise, it will be stressful.
Exactly.
Because you put a time on it saying, oh, this dress has got to be made.
That's right. That's right. I agree. And I think that to me is one of the biggest things about running a sewing business, is providing a safe environment for other people to come and just take a breath, take time out, learn a new skill, and hopefully, it's taking the pressure off them in their everyday life. So that's really important.
It is important. I think it's perfect. Summed it up, Ali.
It does. Well, it's been lovely chatting to you, Caroline.
And you.
And such good luck with your move. I hope it all goes very soon and very well. And
I'll keep everybody informed.
Yes, definitely. Well, we will be chatting with other guests and finding out more about them. So it's going to be an exciting time. And
it is.
And I'm really pleased to be on this journey with you.
I know.
Even though it is afar.
It'll be great. But in the meantime, happy sewing.
Happy sewing, and happy sewing to all our listeners.
Yeah.
And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please do subscribe and keep in touch and look at all of our news feeds, our social media feeds and websites, and you'll find all the information there. So excellent. So happy sewing, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.